Uh, uh, uh. And then 24. Rejoice, comrades. Brody is here. Hi, Brody. How you doing? You came in quick. Hang on a second. Uh, yeah. Hmm. Get everything set up. Eh. I listened to myself earlier on. So, yeah, it's weird. You're bored. Prepare to get fucking pissed off. I have been. And there's no one I can. Oh no, I'll not get access to my live stream. Cloud? Nozzle. Oh, I did get in. Wait, come on. Ah, there we go. I did get in. Yo, I was over in Helena's earlier on, obviously. We'll get to it, don't you worry. Oh, don't you dare. Wait, don't. Oh, fuck. If anyone comes into my YouTube chat, they're screwed. I'm not getting in. I didn't have enough to pay for my YouTube Premium. So if I go onto YouTube, we're going to have to suffer ads. Ah, I can show it if you like. A bit sneaky doing that, but oh yeah, there we go. One of them's his constituent, by the way. YouTube comrades, if you can hear me, I do apologize. Ah, fucking, I shaved today. And when I do that, if I catch myself, it gets really fucking itchy for some strange reason. And just shaving's no, 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 nothing. Kind of cursed fucking headline is this? Did you see this as peak engagement? Oh, fuck it, I'll try because I need. Rejoice, comrades. Limey Redneck. Hi, Limey. Just let me get into the live stream, you bastard of a simless phone. I'm in. Ah, do not fuck about. Uh, uh, Gosh, it goes well. I've literally just started. Rejoice, comrades. Unfortuitous ashes here. He's mad. When Barry Gardner, I read it the other day, asking about his constituent. I can't remember where his seat is, but our Prime Minister, one of his very own constituents, not exactly working class area, is it that he represents? They've been kidnapped, abducted off a vessel on the high, a British flag vessel, no less. A matter for Israel. No, a matter for you as a constituency MP and you as a fucking Prime Minister. Ugh, that'd be foreign or home. I'm trying to think what department would deal with British flag vessels, like all the ships. Well, some of them haven't got flags. That's why if they don't have a flag or they don't, if they have a dubious flag, they're the pirates. Piracy at the high sea, on the high seas, still legally a fucking crime here in the UK. I don't. I'm trying to figure out what department that might be because it's a British registered vessel. Technically, that is security. It would be home. But if it's MI6 that would be going to rescue them or dealing with this, it'd be between transport and transportation. Yeah, yeah, that'd be MI5 dealing with registered. Well, yeah, you may be correct, Brody. Nice one, thank you. Anyway, it's a security issue as well because fucking kidnapped British citizens. Okay. Outraged, former Leicester East MP Claudia Webb has slammed the refusal of the Keir Starmer government to fulfil its duty to protect UK citizens from hostile acts. Yeah. Well, it's international waters. Most major nations are signed up to. It's basically two different treaties, one of which we actually created, like the legalese for it, obviously a while ago. I've still got it. Outraged former Leicester East MP Claudia Webb has slammed the refusal of the Keir Starmer government to fulfil its duty to protect UK citizens from hostile acts after a spokesman for the Prime Minister said that Israel's abduction of Brits and others volunteering on the flotilla of small boats attempting to reach Gaza with baby food and other aid for starving Palestinians was a matter for the Israeli government. No, it fucking isn't. British citizens, can you hear me? Fucking hell. Keir Starmer's spokesman asked about Israel detaining British citizens who were on the Gaza aid flotilla while in international waters. Never forget that. Replies that this is a matter for the Israeli government. No, fucking isn't. They were tortured too, Limey. Correct. For Israel, whose head of state has an outstanding arrest warrant against him for war crimes. I don't think I need to play that. I think plenty of other people played it. Nothing to say here. Police disperse. Webb did not hold back, calling Starmer a traitor for doing nothing, absolutely nothing. In response to British citizens illegally seized and kidnapped by Israel in international waters, tortured, blindfolded, and zip-tied. Ouch. Starmer's spokesman declared it a matter for the Israeli government. Fucking no, it isn't. Our Prime Minister does nothing, absolutely nothing. This is betrayal. Under international law, governments have an unequivocal duty to protect their citizens. Yell in their face for that. Both as part of their obligations to protect human rights and under the specific responsibility to protect. A UK government statement on the application of this duty, published under the Bojo government, I didn't make this shit up, says that the concept of protection encompasses all activities aimed at obtaining full respect for the rights of the individual in accordance with the letter and the spirit of the relevant bodies of law. In essence, the goal of protection is to improve the safety of civilians by limiting their exposure to violence, abuse, coercion, exploitation, and deprivation, and the threat thereof. Primary responsibility for the protection and assistance of civilians lies with states, these countries, who are obliged to protect, respect, and fulfil the human rights of all persons within their jurisdiction. Even the Bozo government, I like that, recognised its legal obligation to British people. Didn't do too well with oh god, I can fucking see her. The Starmer government also clearly prioritises the interests of Israel above the well-being of UK citizens. Yep. Oh,
Under international law, governments have an unequivocal duty to protect their citizens.
yeah, when you have people wishing they had Bojo back. Pretty damning, isn't it? Ah, delete that one now. That was fucking horrible. Right. That is, it's not a matter for Israel. They're British citizens. It is British flagged vessels. They're deliberate. I think that might be deliberate. DWP admits its benefits helpline is driving disabled people to self-harm. Oh, they've done that deliberately, so yeah, to show it that is. Okay. Well, this is a 5-minute read with a AI bot. The Department for Work and Pensions, we still get money from them. Universal Credit might benefit myself is up here in Scotland, but all the other benefits come through Caxton House and now the Ghoul. They're mental, aren't they, Limey? Only the choicest stories. Only the best candidates. The Department for Work and Pensions has had to admit that delays on one of its benefits helplines could be contributing to a rise in claimants harming themselves. Mind you, they've only done it because they've had to. And of course, they haven't admitted this publicly. Why would they? Kind of fucking headlines that. In the last few weeks, the Department for Work and Pensions has sent out an urgent appeal to stakeholder groups, including advice agencies and charities. One's connected to, well, our ones are connected to our housing. There's usually TMAP, there's usually one. They visit all the housing offices throughout the city once a month. The last few weeks, the Department for Work and Pensions has sent out an urgent appeal to stakeholder groups, including advice agencies and charities, asking for their help to solve pain points experienced by employment support allowance, what's ASA, claimants who have had to deal with distressing delays and waits when they call the Department for Federal Work and Pensions for help. The email to stakeholders shared by Benefits and Work said, "We are interested in identifying the pain points faced by ESA customers communicating with the Department for Work and Pensions, particularly issues surrounding telephony and the pain points our customers face when contacting Work and Pensions by phone." The department reports that the number of calls they are receiving, particularly from worried ESA claimants, is increasing rapidly. Yeah, creating unresolved backlogs. However, they can't seem to put two and two together at that place because they also say the link between backlog management, operational decisions, and customer behaviour isn't fully understood. Okay, the link between backlog management, operational decisions, and customer behaviour isn't fully understood. Inbox piling up, or people stuck in queues for fucking hours on the telephone. Operational decisions, you can only do this. You have to do blah 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 to move this forward, putting all the onus on the claimant. And customer behaviour isn't fully understood. Well, customer behaviour can be fully understood if you fucking talk to us, give us the information we need, tell us what we need to do. which means people are getting frustrated, getting left on hold for sometimes hours, I've heard, for some of the backlogs on calling in. Ugh. Oh, ah, motherfucker. Ouch. Getting attacked by my desk. They've been told they're only allowed to do it in these ways. Like I'm talking about who you're calling. You're only allowed to do blah, blah, and blah. You cannot expand. You cannot move out of these things. You're only allowed to answer in this fashion. Operational decisions, yeah, you can't. These are the procedures. You have to follow them. I don't know what they can be. It's been years since I've been on ESA. No, are we customers? I don't. I don't like the fact that they call us customers. We're claimants, but we also get called customers because you can see it on your when you go into the job centre. I don't need to worry now. I'm the pair of us. We don't need to go in ever again. Thank fuck. I'm trying to think of another word they can use to call us. Claimants is a lot better than customers. I don't know, man. Mentally and physically disabled people having to suffer through agonizing waits to speak to someone who's supposed to help with, while every single day they're told by the media and politicians that they're all useless scroungers. Nah, I can't figure it out either. Point. Claimants in danger while DWP lies about customer satisfaction. Yeah, it does sound transactional. I don't like it. We're not customers. Mm. The DWP is also scarily admitted that far more calls require an intervention, and that's their fault. Additionally, six-point plan intervention during these phone calls arising across all service lines. Ah, rejoice, comrades, mod extraordinaire. Hi, Shanna. I'm all right. I arrived late to Rapture. I was watching Red Rust and playing my Oxygen Not Included. He was trying to help me through. Oh my God. Oh, oh, thank you, sweetie. Thanks, darling. That really is quite lovely. Praise be, Shauna is here. Right, additionally, six-point plan intervention during these phone calls arising across all service lines, potentially due to delays impacting customer experience. The six-point plan is a series of steps DWP staff are required to follow if a claimant tells the operator that they intend to harm or kill themselves. The plan includes grabbing a colleague to support them in the call, finding out information from the caller to gauge the level of risk they are in, and then providing referral advice or calling emergency services. However, as benefits and work point out, this appeal to stakeholders is in direct opposition to the Department of Work and Pensions Customer Experience Survey results, which the department posted on the 25th of September, so a little while ago. What are we? The 8th. About a fortnight ago. The findings of the survey were, as ever, wholly positive, bordering on delusional, with an astounding 80% of customers, apparently, saying that it was easy to use Department of Work and Pension Services. Mhm. 80% also said they were satisfied with the time it took Department of Work and Pensions to tell them the outcome of their new claim or change of circumstances. Yeah, I know. With an incredible amount of backlogs, this seems absolutely ridiculous. Blatant lies. Excuse me. The survey, of course, makes no mention of distress, and especially nothing about how many claimants want to kill themselves after the way they're treated on the phone. But would a public survey mention that? Instead, they're pretending the Department of Work and Pensions is hunky dory while they're begging stakeholders for help. So that'd be like citizens advice. Trying to think of other ones. Smart ones maybe as well. The email continues. We believe that our shared clients' experiences are crucial to shaping a better system. Scope. Thanks. Their stories of dealing with DWP processes will help us identify not only practical pain points, but also the emotional toll that service delays can have on their lives. We are especially interested in capturing their feelings, anxieties, and any challenges they faced when interacting with these systems. Blind frustration, out and out fucking anger, fury, depression. There's a number of things. It depends on the customer, depends on the claimant. The department has has asked stakeholders for an incredible amount of unpaid labour here. What word cloud that would yeah, it'd be fucking mental, wouldn't it? The department has asked stakeholders for an incredible amount of unpaid labour here. Fucking pay them. They want to know what claimants are telling the advice lines and charities about. Ah, you God, it hurts. Experiences of contacting employment support allowance, new style ESA telephony service lines, any difficulties or frustrations they've had when interacting with ESA, any barriers or challenges faced when liaising with ESA. Yeah, fucking cursed word cloud. Their feelings, anxieties, or positive experiences. Right, delays in being informed when you won't have enough to meet your basic needs. That's a fucking pain point. Yes. Their feelings, anxieties, or positive experiences with these systems and services. Positive? A tad optimistic. Suggestions on how these processes could be made more accessible. Dis- Dismantle it and give people the fucking money. User user friendly and emotionally supportive from benefits. Mental. They're fucking delusional. Well, seemingly, this is a positive thing that the DWP are trying to find new ways of supporting claimants. The fact that they are keeping it so secretive while pushing out bullshit about how satisfied customers are is troubling. It seems standard for the way the Department of Work and Pensions is set up, really. Thanks, IDS, you fucking bastard. There's also the fact that at every turn, the Department of Work and Pensions is against claimants. Yes, they are. It does not work in their best interests. Ain't that the fucking truth? We don't yet know the scale at which delays are causing ESA claimants to harm themselves. It'd be difficult collating that information. But it's bad. But if it's bad for claimants who are still on ESA, imagine what it must be like for those having to deal with the disastrous and cruel DWP whilst they're being forced to migrate over to universal credit. I know exactly what it's like to get moved over. Fucking cursed. It took us fucking months. We got our money. We got because we were moving from, well, I was still on PIP, but mine's got moved over quicker. So I was on my adult disability payment, which is a Scottish one, the highest amount, not the lowest amount that I was getting for PIP from these bastards. Hang on, we don't yet know the scale at which delays are causing ESA claimants to harm themselves. But if it's bad for claimants who are still on ESA, imagine what it must feel like for those having to deal with the disastrous and cruel DWP whilst they're being forced to migrate over to universal credit. You can also guarantee that with increase in media-fueled benefits hate, the scale at which it's unreported will be even higher. One thing's for certain, it must be fucking bad if the DWP are actually seeking help for it. You want to get help for it, actually hire people to do that. Because the department is responsible for an untold number of deaths that they have for many years tried to cover up. Yeah, that is their job. That is what they're meant to be doing at the department. I wonder what Pat McFadden's cooking up for us all. Mental. Absolutely fucking mental. Delete that one. He does. He does, Nosferatu. What would be this one? Oh, it's a 5 minute read. I was going to try and find. He does already look at, doesn't he? That looks like TARDIS blue, that chocolate bar. You see that Britian? Oh, good. Do we need this one? Oh, whoa. Yeah, Jerry Haslam. Okay, I'm going to be getting videos on it anyway. I just wanted to show you this chocolate bar. Oh, look, a bag of Starbucks. Right, I'll be looking for videos for you. Okay. God. Oh, I forgot I tagged this one. 3-minute read. Ah, a ramp. At least that's a decent job centre. Quite a first sentence, that. If you've ever had the misfortune to have to experience the Department for Work and Pensions Job Centre, sign off in the chat if you've been to a job centre. Yeah. Too many times. Seriously, they did get upgraded, but it's still a job centre. They're utilitarian at best. Improved utilitarian. You'll know it makes claimants feel like they're entering a high security prison. That there's always shutters on the windows around it. All the doors you see within the place are locked. The bean counters are usually upstairs, so where I go in, there's a ramp that slope down. It's just paved. There's a slope down to the doors. And all the people that you interact with, the customers or the claimants interact with, they're there just as you enter. They're split off into different sections. So the left-hand one goes down is universal credit and disability ones like ESA. Quite possibly like me. Fucking hilarious. Ah, that's getting pinned. Oh dear God. Uh, right, I'll start again. If you've ever had the misfortune to have to experience the Department for Work and Pensions Job Centre, you'll know it makes claimants feel like they're entering a high security prison. Private security guards are present on all floors. Like there's only the one floor, whereas there's floors underneath, but the only way you can get to them is either around the side of the my job centre and downstairs, stairs, or you go in the main entrance and you get put down the stairs inside the building. Private security guards are present on all floors, yes, just to make chronically ill, disabled, and non-working people feel even more criminalised. They're there for our security. No, no. However, now it seems that the Department for Work and Pensions might be preparing to up the scale of this policing of claimants. Delightful. This is because it has just issued new guidance on the use of body-worn cameras in job centres. I thought only police could use those. Body cam video on the security guards who are not police. Ah, DWP policing claimants with body-worn cameras on. Previously, private security staff at job centres did not necessarily always wear body cameras. For trade unions, this was a real issue. The GMB, for example, issued guidance June last year over them. It was furious that, following widespread reports from sites of agency staff not wearing body cams, we raised this with both G4S and Department for Work and Pensions as a safety breach. At the time, notorious private contractor G4S, asking why. Why keep on giving these bastards money? Said that body-worn cameras were not part of its risk assessment, meaning it made no specific provision for its use. Yet it did admit they were an additional security tool, which means that the security guard can wear them if they like. Fast forward to February 2025. And both the GMB and PCS unions, they're basically the ones who covered these. Like, the PCS is, oh, fuck, forgotten. Oh, I've forgotten it. I should know. Civil service. Thanks, Brody. Fast forward to February this year, and both the GMB and PCS unions were once once again kicking off about these devices. The GMB said there was inconsistency surrounding the use of body cameras, leading some members to use their own mobiles for basic site safety reasons. The PCS went further, saying G4S provides staff with personal mobile radios and body-worn cameras that fail on a daily basis, a member commented. Our cameras have not worked since May 2024. Other equipment has not worked for over 2 years, despite being reported to the manager. So it seems that some security staff at job centres wear body-worn cameras, others don't, and they don't even work all the time. Mm. But hold up, if security staff are wearing body-worn cameras sometimes, where is the data protection guidance around this for claimants? Seeing it is them the DWP heavies are going to be filming. Good question, because it did not exist until a few days ago. Delightful. Government catching up with its own GDPR failings. Like, ugh, why am I surprised? I shouldn't be. On 1st of October, the Department for Work and Pensions decided it was time to comply with its legal obligations surrounding GDPR. Fucking hell. And issue guidance for claimants on body-worn cameras. You can read it here. I want to. As you may need to request your data at some point if you are unlucky enough to be under the thumb of the DWP. Am I going to have to tell Super Hubby? He will not be happy. I'm sure it's fairly standard stuff, except one part isn't. The Department for Work and Pensions notes that it may use footage from body-worn cameras to help DWP or the police during investigation. Excuse me. When someone has to ask us to restrict processing of their data, that is your legal obligation. To help with a legal case, to help in a matter of public interest. That last one's too fucking vague. That is, if the Department of Work and Pensions is investigating someone for benefit fraud, it can now use the footage from these cameras inside job centres to help with that snooping. They're meant to apply for fucking warrants, meant to go to the judge and ask, we want to use them, blah, 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 blah. And hopefully they'll be told where to fucking go. So not only did the DWP seemingly fail on its basic GDPR obligations surrounding these devices, it now has made it clear they'll be used to spy on claimants as well. This comes at a time when the Labour government has ratcheted up the fake culture of assuming all benefit claimants are frauds. No, we're not, until proven otherwise. Of course, this is all bullshit. Well said. But as has always been the case. Media and society have lapped it up. You in reality, when you're at the mercy of the Department of Work and Pensions, it is distressing enough having to visit a job centre in the first place. But now the DWP has just made that a whole lot worse. What the fuck? Ah! I'm going to have to keep this story to show Super Hubby. Oh God, I can't. I can't show it to him in the morning. You know the stress test to check someone's circulatory system in their heart. He goes for that in the morning. I cannot risk doing this because it will put his blood pressure through the fucking roof if I show him this story. Like, for the sake of its health, until he gets back from this appointment, 9:30 in the morning, by the way. Oh, oh God. Oh, yeah, I'm not showing it to him in the morning. Can't risk it. Blood pressure's bad enough as it is. Christ almighty. There we go. Oh, thanks, Brody. Yeah, that I donate to the Canary now. This made me laugh earlier on. I like this, you know, the blue star you can see up here. Where's that blue star? This blue star here. To save it. And I saved it. Before I clicked out and went back onto Twitch, I showed him this headline and he just went, yep, that's right. Batshit Robert Jenrick has completely lost the plot this time. He just- I thought he'd lost his mind, lost the plot fucking years ago. Just my assessment. Why is he holding up a wig? That's a judge's wig, by the way, or a lord's wig. Barristers don't get this length. Only judges and peers of the realm get that length because you get it with seniority when you blah 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 blah. It's not his, I don't think. All right. Failed to. Sorry, refreshment. Much better. Right, let's get through this one. Wait a minute. Okay, failed Tory leadership hopeful and now shadow justice Robert Jenrick claims to have uncovered judges with links to political causes that compromise the independence of the judiciary. I have uncovered over 30 immigration judges with links to open borders charities. It is now beyond any doubt that a deep rot has infected parts of our judiciary. He's there, Robert, my dude. immigration judges are going to these charities, getting information, literally raw data from them, to use in legal proceedings. Yes, they're immigration judges with links to charities surrounding immigration. That's just part of it. They're getting information from these charities. I'm assuming we'll carry on reading. It never took me to it the last time. Fuck it.
Our country has some of the best lawyers, barristers, and judges of anywhere in the world. But we have a problem. There's a small minority of judges with links to political causes that are compromising the independence of the judiciary. Until now, they've been kept a secret. But the research conducted by my team and I have uncovered it.
Right.
And what I'm about to tell you will shock you. Over 30 immigration judges who sit in courts and tribunals like this one have links to open borders charities. And these are the men and women who get to decide who stays and who goes. And the public will rightly be asking, how independent are they? Let me give you an example. Before his appointment, Judge Symes volunteered for bail for immigration detainees. Even after his appointment, he takes public positions on social media on illegal migration proposals. And he even advertises his judicial office to drum up business for his immigration advisory services. Or take Judge Heaven. She spent 5 years before she became a judge volunteering for bail for immigration detainees. And even after becoming a judge, she took to social media to celebrate the defeat of the government's Rwanda plan. These people should have no place in our justice system. But my research has shown these are not isolated examples. The line between adjudication and activism is being blurred every day. If judges want to step into the political space, they should stand for Parliament. It's time for transparency and for reform, so the public can have confidence that their judges are truly independent.
The one before that, the one with Judge Heaven, the people who are going up against these courts, who go up against these tribunals, who come up and face these tribunals, they need legal representation, you fucking idiot. So I'll use Judge Heaven from the information you've just said there. She probably represented people as a barrister of some description, which is the usual thing that's what happens before they get put onto the bench. Was he not fucking getting? Yeah, he's probably there in an advisory role for that charity. This is the law. This is how it's written, and that's it. More than likely. Oh, God. He's either batshit or desperate to try and reform. Yeah, that's a bit. Let's start with the obvious fact that this means he's asking us to take him at his word without providing the broader evidence he claims his team have dug up. Good point. So the bulk of the links he's referring to, we can't exactly scrutinise. Robert Jenrick also fails to mention that he did not do the same due diligence in finding the number of immigration judges who are, in fact, anti-immigration. He has also not shown us what he considers to be open borders charities. Correct. Praise be Rejoice, comrades, John the Brazen is here. Hi, John. Jenrick, being a lunatic. In his video, he points out two judges who volunteered for bail for immigration detainees prior to being appointed. There we go. Provide free legal advice, information, and representation to thousands of people held in detention across the UK. They do not support open borders, which is what Jenrick appears to be claiming in his video. One of the judges also reposted on Twitter, which celebrated the failure of the government's Rwanda deportation plan, celebrating the end of an inhumane and dangerous plan does not make someone a pro-open borders. It simply makes them a human who gives a shit about asylum seekers, which you would think might be a pretty useful quality while making make or break decisions about migrants' lives. Yeah. Well said, John. Yep. The Canary previously reported on the father-in-law of the UK's independent reviewer of terrorism legislation having personal ties to Israel. Ah, I read that one. But obviously for Jenrick, that would be the right type of bias. Not meant to be. Oh, wait. Waistcoat Dave. I can't help but think if the judges who had been vocal supporters of closed borders at Robert Jenrick would see this as not only free speech, but reasons to celebrate, they're now an immigration judge. Maybe, yes, not allowed. Oh my, fuck, fuck, fuck. Maybe Jenrick needs a little refresher on how the UK's legal system works. Might be an idea. Mesmer's soldier. Oh, fuck off with your Elon-inspired bullshit. Judges being independent means they're independent of the executive and the legislature. You need to understand what judicial independence actually means. It means MPs can't fuck with them. That's why there's no law lords anymore. Okay, Robert Jenrick claims there is a small minority of judges with links to political causes that are compromising the independence of the judiciary. This is mummy issues. But what about the rest of the judges? Do any of them have links to political causes which support closed borders? Did he investigate them? Or are they not important because they're on the same side? Rennick has also set a dangerous precedent, publishing personal information which targets specific immigration judges' personal lives and histories, much of which was before they became judges. Yeah. Oh, Alicia, a river in Greek mythology. This is dangerous and deeply inappropriate to rake up personal information and splash it all over the internet, unworthy of an MP. But this is Jenrick after all. Brilliant. But this is straight from the MAGA playbook, which the likes of Manfrog and Kemi lap up. Correct. This is the deranged MAGA narrative being repeated by this hideous caricature of a politician, appealing to the same intellectually illiterates as Jimmy Badenoch and Manfrog. It does, it does seem quite. unbecoming of a legislator. So let's take a look at Jenrick's own history because he's far from innocent. Just this week, Robert Jenrick complained of not seeing another white face in Birmingham. According to The Guardian, he also said it was not the kind of country he wanted to live in. Fuck off then. I think the majority of level-headed Brits can agree that we do not want Jenrick living here. So we all win. Yes. And I will personally pay for his plane ticket out of here. Ah, oh my God. Back in May, the Canary reported on Jenrick cosplaying as Batman on the London Underground. Right, that was fucked. He went after fare dodgers in an attempt to make a political point. That's called harassment, Robert. However, what transpired was Jenrick filming without permission from the Transport for London, which is a crime. The crime is something Jenrick is all too familiar with. Okay, e.g. at Reddit Ratch. Not sure this shows contrition from someone on the inside only a couple of years ago, and as housing minister, pushed through the West Ferry scheme to save his donor 45 million in tax. Yeah, your leadership should stop making videos for a bit. Those in glass houses, etc. Shouldn't chuck stones. Yeah, boundaries. What are they? All this talk from Robert Jenrick about controlling borders is pretty ironic. Anyway, because the only boundary he has ever respected is the one around his donor's developments. Correct. Well said, Brodie. Previously, he admitted helping a Conservative Party donor avoid a £45 million tax bill. He rushed through Richard Desmond's luxury housing development a day before a community infrastructure levy came into force. Desmond then donated 12,000 to the scum only 2 weeks later. Shady as fuck. The brass neck of Jenrick talking about deep rod when he abused his position as housing minister to rush a planning application for a donor through to save them 45 million in tax. So patriotic. Yeah, that is a lot. This man is scum. He claimed the scheme would not be viable if the developer had to pay the tax. Evidence, please, for that, Robert. Importantly, authorities would have used the money to fund public services in Tower Hamlets, one of the country's most deprived areas. Yeah. It then emerged that a planning application for Jenrick's own home renovation was denied twice. Get wrecked. But he resubmitted it in his wife's name once he was elected as an MP. It was then approved by Tory councillors. What a coincidence. That's corruption. Thank you. Jenner asked in his pathetic little video, how independent are they? Meaning the immigration judges. What we should be asking is, how independent is he? Good point. Well, you have to admire Jenrick's consistency. Whether it's judicial independence or planning laws, if there's a rule, he will find a way around it. What the fuck? Why is this man fucking MP unfucking believable? Ah, well, that's a lot, isn't it? Declassified just caught a US spy plane leaving. I'm assuming it's like. I'm assuming it's Secretary. Brilliant. Oh, 4 minute read. Okay. Declassified UK have managed to record a US spy plane leaving a UK airbase in Cyprus. New Gaza spy plane spotted leaving UK airbase on Cyprus. P. Miller info and at Alex_Macondo. Declassified captures first footage of an American spy plane taking off from a Royal Air Force base bound for Gaza. Was it leaving Cyprus? The plane was bound for Gaza, according to Declassified UK. It's an important sighting because the plane has flown without its tracker turned on while making previous flights, making it impossible to monitor. They're not meant to do that. That is meant to be illegal. That's illegal, as far as I was aware. In the UK, Declassified UK and other independent journalists have spearheaded reporting on the UK military's involvement in flights over Gaza. That was incorrect. From RAF Akrotiri. It's on the eastern part of the island, so it's the closest to Gaza, to the coast, essentially. We reported in July that the UK would consider a request by the ICC to hand over surveillance footage from Gaza. The Times only just picked up on it today. Thanks, Phil. John McAvoy. The British media claimed that Palestine action may have damaged the planes at RAF Bryce Norton beyond repair. I knew that was fucking lies. Potentially costing the UK over 30 million. Flight tracking data now shows the ZZ-338 aircraft, one of the two targeted by Palestine action, is already back in the air. What the fuck? They used Pressbook, by the way, up here because of the runway and the landing. It's, it's an extended one. The Americans used it as well. So it flew from ah, fucking praise be Mod Kennard. Plainly up. Brody, pin yourself. Revealed Trump is using Egyptian airport to spy on Gaza under guise of peacekeeping. Mhm. Use military assets forming part of multinational force and observers (MFO) set up after the 1978 Camp David Accords are spying on Gaza from El Gora airport in Sinai, middle of a fucking desert. Sisi regime is likely aware. Of course they would be. Okay. Read my full investigation for at P Deep Dive here. Is that Palestine Deep Dive? Okay, journalists Phil Miller and Alex Morris captured the spy plane footage for Declassified UK. In the write-up, they explained that they had seen the plane's tracker periodically turn on its location beacon at this airfield. The purpose of the recording the plane was to confirm if these split-second flashes on the tracking website actually result in surveillance missions or if the plane never leaves Akrotiri. There have been 5 such pings since the UN Commission of Inquiry declared this a genocide. On the night that they captured the footage, the beacon momentarily turned on, as they noted. It's turned on several more times since. Britain's Ministry of Defence hired a private US security firm to send spy flights over Gaza. Brilliant. Declassifieds at P. Miller Info and at Alex McCondoe camped outside Akrotiri, to capture the first footage of these planes deploying to Gaza to collect intel. The official narrative is that the RAF is providing surveillance capacity to help Israel locate the hostages in Gaza. There are some issues with this narrative, however, as Miller and Morris highlighted. When terrorist group Boko Haram kidnapped 276 schoolgirls in Nigeria, the RAF sent a Sentinel spy plane to help look for them, taking off from neighbouring Ghana. The Sentinel mapped the whole of Nigeria in 10 sorties, Christ, and located the schoolgirls within the first few weeks. So why does Israel, with its vastly more advanced surveillance capabilities than Nigeria, really require so much assistance from Britain's spy flight programme? Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said in the past that Israel wouldn't halt the war even if there was a deal to release the hostages. Delightful. Oh, that was the last one. Oh, oh God. Okay.
Does anyone even remember the Conservative Party? They were in government for 14 years. We had 4 Tory prime ministers in a row, but you wouldn't know it from their party conference. Or maybe you would, because the Tories are only reaping what they've sown. Either way, the scenes at conference were pretty bleak. For Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride's flagship speech, the Manchester Central Conference Hall was half empty. You can see all the unoccupied seats down the left-hand side. And Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp's speech didn't fare much better. As you can see, it's hardly rammed. But this post on X from Times political correspondent Max Kendricks really takes the biscuit. He says this: Tory conference feels empty more than anything. The members' debate on free speech has been attended by 55 people. Where are all the free speech warriors, one might ask? Well, they went to Reform Conference instead. Now, even legacy media has picked up on how poorly attended the Tory conference has been. But leader Kemi Badenoch wasn't ready to admit what we can all see with our very own eyes. Here she is on Radio 4's The Today programme.
You saw at Mel Stride's speech yesterday, there were banks of empty seats. People are saying that your leadership, that you're not bringing people with you, you're not enthusing the Conservative Party, that you haven't got the momentum and energy that you need to change things.
Well, that's not true. I looked at how many people were in my speech. It was rammed full. Yes, exactly. So you can't say
the shadow chancellor.
Yes, but you can't say that I'm not enthusing people when it's standing room only. They're accused into many of the fringe events. We have this accusation every other conference.
Let me change the question.
That people haven't turned up to the main. People haven't turned up to the main hall. It's because there's actually quite a lot going on. What is different about this conference is that because we're not
he should be a box office.
What is different about this conference is that because we're not in government, a lot of the people who turn up wanting government favours are not here. They've gone to Labour conference. We used to be teaming with corporate lobbyists. Now we're teaming with party members. So yes, it is different. But let's just remember,
I don't think teaming is. It's not the right word. I haven't seen anything.
Well,
teaming.
You should have been at the pub I was in yesterday. Absolutely rammed full with young Conservatives.
Everyone needing a drink after those boring speeches in those half-empty rooms, I'm sure. Amazing thing to say, though. I'm the leader.
Drowning their sorrows. Not bad. Much better. Seriously. Oh, delightful.
Of, what was once thought of as a natural party of government. And yeah, we no longer enthuse anyone, but at least people turn out to see what gaffes I might make when I'm giving my speech. Badenoch probably didn't have a great time on the morning media round when she wasn't being asked about the wake-like atmosphere at her party's conference. She was being asked about her Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, saying this.
I went to Handsworth in Birmingham the other day to do a video on litter. And it was absolutely appalling. It's as close as I've come to a slum in this country. But the other thing that I noticed there was that it was one of the worst integrated places that I've ever been to. In fact, in the hour and a half that I was filming with news there, I didn't see another white face. And that's not the kind of country I want to live in. I want to live in a country where people are properly integrated. It's not about the colour of your skin or your faith. Of course it isn't. But I want people to be living alongside each other, not parallel lives. That's not the right way we want to live as a country.
Jenrick made these comments about the Handsworth area of Birmingham at the Aldridge Brownhills Conservatory.
That's out with their control, mostly. Yeah, that is disgusting. That is, what the fuck? I would say if you want to see more white faces, come up to Glasgow. This area that I'm in is majority white. Or if you want fully white, I don't know. Go and live on the moon. Oh, God.
Conservative Association dinner back in March. The audio recording was leaked to The Guardian and made public today. And his remarks have already been slammed by former Tory West Midlands Mayor Andy Street, who called Handsworth actually a very integrated place. and by the current Labour Mayor Richard Parker, who said Jenrick's comments were racist and questioned whether he should still be able to sit as a Tory MP. In that clip, he does seem to be saying something like, I can't see any white faces here. I don't want to live in a country like this. I want to live in a country more integrated. Like,
Yeah.
does he think that integration means that people turn white? It's very unclear what is being said in that. I mean, well, it's racist, obviously. You know, what people you see on the street at one given moment while you're shooting a video on litter doesn't necessarily indicate anything about like the community that lives there. But Kemi Badenoch doesn't seem keen to discipline her one-time leadership rival, who some people think is still gunning for the top Tory job. She said this on BBC Breakfast.
But in and of itself, it's a factual statement. If he said he didn't see another white face, he might have been making an observation. There's nothing wrong with making observations. But what he and I both agree with is that there are not enough people integrating. There are many people who are creating separate communities. I'm very worried
So you agree with
about
him?
what is happening in Birmingham. I'm very worried. Well, I wasn't there, so I can't say how many faces he saw. But the point is that there are many people in our country who are not integrating.
I would sort of really love to know what's meant by integrating here. I'd really like just a definition of, you know, what counts as having integrated. Is it like, you know, a certain number of white people surrounding every residence of non-white people? Is that integration? You know, what does it mean? What does it mean? How can you tell? It's surely racist, just straightforwardly racist to say, if I can't see a white person around, these people aren't integrated. I mean, integration there just must mean.
Well, oh, there you agree. Yeah, delightful.
I can't see a white person around. Otherwise, you know, what else could it mean? Without someone telling us what exactly they mean. You know, integration is not a matter of appearance, right? Integration is a matter of adopting customs, habits, rules, etc., etc. It's crazy stuff. Jenrick has defended his comments today, saying we need to have an open and honest conversation about integration, not another one. He also told Sky News this.
And the concern I have in that community and in others across the country, 'cause it's not just about one place, that was an example because I was speaking nearby, is that we're not living in a country which is as well integrated as...
Okay, you've used this word integrated as well as the one that I'm interested in.
May I just make this point, if I may? Look, there are real dangers
Go on.
here. There are real dangers. If we don't live in a well integrated community, then this can lead to serious challenges. Look, just the other day here in Manchester, we saw a man who had lived in this country for 30 years, but was clearly not integrated into our society, clearly did not share British values, committing an appalling terrorist attack by going to a synagogue and killing British Jews. That is at the extreme level where failures of integration lead. And that's why we've got to have a debate about this and not have it shut down whenever anyone puts their head above the parapet and talks about it publicly.
Yes, that was Robert Jenrick using his own clearly racist comments about not seeing enough white faces to score a political point about the attack on Heaton Park Synagogue on Yom Kippur, killing one worshipper while another was shot dead by police. Barry, I can't make any sense of why the Tories engage in this kind of racist rhetoric and why they're trying to do a kind of reform. What do you make of it? What do you think they're trying to achieve? And are they going to be successful?
Well, I mean, the first thing to say is it's racism. You know, they can go out on morning television and deny it all they want, but it's racism, and it's blunt racism. And, you know, we've seen people for a long time talk about how they walk around London and there are no-go areas and they never see white faces, which we all know is complete absurd nonsense. And now we're seeing it come from a major political party, and we're seeing that party, you know, defend it and call it not racist when we can all see clearly that it is. But I've been kind of fascinated by the Tory party conference, and not in a sort of a policy way or a wow, they're having interesting conversations way, but more in a kind of a Louis Theroux, wow, this is an interesting group of people to observe way. And I think that when you contrast the Tory party conference with the Green party conference and also the Reform party conference, it's really, really stark. And I think that the contrast with the Reform party conference speaks to some of these racist statements that we've seen coming from Robert Gendrick and others. Reform at their conference had energy. There was palpable energy there. You could feel it. You could see it. You know, the wind is at their backs. Their tails are up. But, you know, essentially they had one message, which was, you know, an anti-immigration message, which was a stop the boats message, a message that is very, you know, nasty and hateful, but that's very clear. You know, here is our prospect. Here is.
They do deserve to die. Long time coming.
Is what we are offering. I think Gendrick, you know, look, I've said this before. You're not going to out reform. You know, I've said it about Labour too. What you know, Gendrick is never going to out Farage. I see him as a kind of a like a blunt force tool who clearly wants to be leader and is kind of scrabbling around for an issue of his own. And again, when you talk about sort of big issues and breaking through to the public, I've talked about the Reform Conference, but look at the Green Conference. Again, just this palpable sense of energy. I mean, much of it from the fact that they have a new leader in Zach Polanski, but you could feel excitement, you could feel buzz. And, you know, then they put out this really excellent party political broadcast yesterday. And again, they had a key proposition for the public, one key proposition. And that proposition was, we're going to tax billionaires. You know, very, very effective. That's going to break through. What did we see the Tories speaking about the last 2 days? The European Convention on Human Rights. I mean, I know that there's that they're using that as a way to attack immigration, but it's never going to break through. I mean, do you think that you're going to walk down a high street in the UK and you're going to say to somebody, you know, what do you want to see for Britain? What do you want to see change? And somebody is going to say, well, I really want to see us pull out of the European Convention on Human Rights. And then the other thing that they had today was that they're going to get rid of woke judges, which is just such a Trumpian idea that, again, I don't think is going to break through. You know, I saw a clip from the conference today, or a photo, where they had outfits worn by Margaret Thatcher on sort of headless dummies encased in glass. And it was kind of macabre. And it made me think that there's like a pile of death of the entire conference, and it's the death of a political force. So I think it's a disaster for them, and I don't think this blunt force racism is going to break through either.
I mean, I think they're lunatics, the Tories. I think like they're completely insane. They've totally lost it, because, you know, there are so many people in this country who are ethnic minorities, who are classic Tory voters, small business owners, entrepreneurs, socially conservative, all waiting there to vote for the Tories, because they're not going to vote for Reform, and they probably won't vote for Labour, but they're there. And so Tories should just be doing social conservatism, none of this race stuff, social conservatism, maybe doing some sort of stuff about, you know, civic values or whatever if they want to, doing a little bit of tax stuff, being good for small businesses, you know, all the stuff that Reform is going to fail to do. There's this spot for them to grow from there, to come back from there if they wanted to. But instead, they're chasing this, as you say, Trumpian, toxic, Reform, antagonistic form of politics. And they're not going to beat Reform. And when Reform gets into power, and when it all goes really, really badly wrong, which I think it will do, which I think, you know, I think it'll be, you know, there'll be a one-term government, if maybe not even a full term. It depends on how things go. But they won't be able to achieve anything of the things that they're promising to achieve, not without radically changing the states in ways that most people won't tolerate. By the time that happens, so when Reform is gone, the Tories will have pegged themselves to that line of politics so much that they'll just look like continuity Reform at the end. So, yeah, no political imagination or creativity or common sense to be found at that Tory party, probably because there was hardly anybody there, to be honest. Now, of course, conference season wouldn't be complete without a roundup of young Tories being young Tories.
Dating as a Tory can be quite hard. What advice would you give to people who just want to poll?
Okay, so I've got a girlfriend now.
Excellent, well done.
When I told her I'm a young conservative, she won't mention that to her friends at all.
I won't answer that question.
When it comes to being a conservative online, including on dating apps, be out and proud. Don't be ashamed. Be proud of your views and your values. And if somebody else on one of these apps is so like narrow-minded, they don't want to date you because you happen to be a conservative, like that's their loss.
I always say when you scratch a Reform supporter, socialist bleeds. So
we have clear policies to combat Labour. Farage is wishy-washy in terms of whether he sides with them or doesn't.
If you look at some of the policies, they're all about a bigger state. If you want someone who's actually going to take on the madness, it has to be someone like Kemi.
I've got a girlfriend now. Barry, what do you make of the young Tories? I mean, there's a way in which I kind of have to admire their loyalty. I mean, Reform must be really beckoning. You've got to wonder why they're sticking with the Tories, though, especially if they can't get laid. What's your take on them?
I'm glad cringing isn't fatal, or I would be dead in this chair right now. And it's just typical, right? We know exactly what kind of people that we're going to see when we meet young Tories. I was in a pub in central London recently, and a bunch of them came in. I overheard them say that they'd come from a young Tory meeting, and they were sort of very loud, and they were being incredibly rude to the bar staff, and they were sort of guffawing and hooray Henrying, and they were very sort of stereotypical. But and you get the sense that they're drawn to the party for a sort of a tribal reason, and maybe that's why some of them don't go to Reform. It's like they see the Tories as their tribe, and probably their parents voted for the Tories, and probably their grandparents voted for the Tories. And I actually think there's kind of a serious point there, which is that every time we see these clips of young Tories at conference, we've been seeing them for a long time. We've probably been seeing them for decades, and it's the same person all the time. It's like they come off an assembly line. So, what that says to me is that the Tories are not attracting a more diverse pool of young people. And again, you talk about the lack of energy in the conference. If you're not attracting a more diverse pool of young people to your cause, then you're not really future-proofing, are you?
Oh. Okay, let's see what we can find. Right, I will be back momentarily, comrades. We will pick one when I come back. Oh, I will be back. I return. Sort now. There's not much I can do about that sort now. I do apologise. It usually comes up for review for me to look it over, and I usually allow it depending on what the context is, which is usually I usually permit it anyway. I keep on banging the table or the leg, the desk, leg, and the hella keeps on sliding off. Okay, rejoice, comrades. Sock now is here. Hi, Sock now. How you doing? Kemi or Robert? Oh, oh, nice one. I hope the project is going well. Oh, 12,000 verbs. Nice one. Okay, this should be fun. Sorry to expose you all to Kemi, but this should be quite good. Stronger economy, stronger borders. Thank you. I can see why you need to do that. Um, peop English speakers, native English speakers, learning another language is difficult because English is garbage. Sorry, English. I use you every day, obviously, but dear God, trying to teach someone English, no TFEL, teaching English as a foreign language. I would not wish. Fuck him. Might be quite fun to wish it on my worst enemy. I hope you're doing well with that because the way we conjugate certain things and translating them into another language is usually quite difficult, or from that into English. The problems of picking up languages from all over the globe and just sort of forcing them into our language. Delightful. Fucking idiotic, really.
you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, conference. Thank you. Conservatives love Manchester. It is a great city of free trade and free thinking. 240 years ago, in the 1780s, this was still a small market town, but something was stirring. A spirit of enterprise that would turn Manchester into a global economic powerhouse. And it was back in the 1780s that the very first Jewish community was established in this city. A small group of families worshipping in a rented room in a back alley just a short walk from where I am standing. And right from the very start, Jewish people have been part of the fabric of Manchester. They've been adding their distinct, unique contribution to this fantastic city, while at the same time embracing Britain as their home. The horrific and despicable attack.
Oh my God, Lefty. We might go and need to check to see if Lefty's done anything since it's in his home city. I urge everyone to go and follow My Left Eye. He is based. He is Mancunian. I wonder how he feels about Tories turning up in the city. Probably using it as an opportunity.
At Heaton Park Synagogue on Thursday has shocked us
Oh,
all.
DG Mule!
But for many
Sorry,
in the Jewish
DG Mule.
community, it did not come as a surprise. Many have been living with a sense of rising dread that an attack like this was becoming inevitable. Yesterday, I met members of the congregation and visited the site of the attack. The strength of Manchester's Jewish community is humbling. Targeting the center of community life on the holiest day of the year was not just an attack on British Jews, it was an attack on all of us.
I wonder if he's out there taking choice photos of these idiots and ghouls. Quite fun. Taking photographs of Tories in your city.
It was an attack on our humanity and our values of freedom, compassion, and respect. It was an attack on the idea that Britain is a safe place for Jews. On Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, Jews take time for introspection, to ask themselves, where have we gone wrong in the past, and what do we need to do to be better in the future? These are questions we urgently need to ask ourselves as a nation.
Yes, it was. Good bit of history there, John. Well done. All right. Nice one. Good leftist history for Manchester. I'm getting here. Thanks. Did he? Good for him.
Extremism has gone unchecked. You see it manifest in the shameful behavior on the streets of our cities, protests which are in fact carnivals of hatred directed at the Jewish homeland.
Well done, John.
You hear it in the asinine slogans. You hear it in From the River to the Sea, as if the homes, the lives of millions of Jewish people should be erased. You hear it in Globalize the Intifada, which means nothing at all if it doesn't mean targeting Jewish people for violence. We have tolerated this in our country for too long. And we have tolerated the radical Islamist ideology that seeks to threaten not only Jews, but all of us, of all faiths and none, who want to live in peace. So the message from this conference, from this party, from every decent and right-thinking person in this country must be that we will not stand for it anymore. We cannot import and tolerate values hostile to our own. We must now draw a line and say that in Britain, you can think what you like, and within the bounds of the law, you can say what you like, but you have no right to turn our streets into the theatres of intimidation, and we will not let you do so anymore.
There we go, another threat to stop protesting. Brilliant. She did. Delightful. She concentrated on this conference happening on Sunday. Laura, you're a fucking disgrace.
To our Jewish friends, we stand with you shoulder to shoulder. You are part of the fabric of Britain, and you always will be. We pray for the recovery of the victims still in hospital, and we mourn with you the loss of Adrian Dolby and Melvin Kravitz. May their memories be a blessing. But we must never let terrorism defeat our democratic process.
Yeah, that's one of the fun things about English. There's a lot of we choose what companies as fucking. I suppose in one way that might be making it easier for you. I hope this works, and I hope this helps your friend. That is cool to know. Languages are good. Being able to expand your horizons, being able to speak to other people. Amazing. Based. Carry on, Sock now. Good for you.
We must demonstrate that it is through political argument, not violence, that we reach our decisions and improve our country.
Norse.
We all know the scale of the challenge we face, the mountain we have to climb. Last year, the public sent us a clear message, one we could not mistake and which we will never forget. They want serious change, for politics to be done differently so our country can get back on track. That's what I promised you when I stood for the leadership of our party. A reset. Politics done differently. Politics done properly. A Conservative Party under new leadership, ready to earn the trust of the British people again.
After 14 years of austerity, good luck, Hen. You're going to fucking need it. Yeah.
In the last 12 months, we've started doing politics in a new way. No more making the announcement first and then working out the policy details second. No more thinking that we can leave quangos and bureaucrats to their own devices and then wonder why we don't see results. No more accepting that our laws can be used as a tool to subvert democratic decisions and basic common sense. An end, once and for all, to the drift of our institutions, away from truth, honesty, and decency, and a return to values that define our country at its best.
I'll decode that. I shall go back and just listen to it again.
In the last 12 months, we've started doing politics in a new way. No more making the announcement first and then working out the policy details second. No more thinking that we can leave quangos and bureaucrats to their own devices and then wonder why we don't see results. No more accepting that our laws can be used as a tool to subvert democratic decisions and basic common sense.
They'll be coming after proper legislative procedures to upend what they deem as incorrect legislation. Don't get me wrong, you can. Yes, by keeping them away. If anyone feels like helping me out, can you check the polls? See how they're doing? Obviously, the only poll that counts and all that nonsense, blah, blah, blah. But I'd love to see how they're polling just now. Oh, thank you, Brodie.
An end once and for all to the drift of our institutions away from truth, honesty, and decency, and a return to values that define our country at its best. That's what this week is all about.
Changing the way benefits are paid. Scrapping the ECHR, bringing in the British Bill of Rights, basically parroting reform. Bringing through the anti-protest laws that they tried to in the past and failed miserably yet again. So there's a couple of things that they tried before, and the court, they looked at it and saying, "No, the courts will just destroy this. No point putting it through because it'll get denied anyway." They can try again if they ever get into power. Big question mark hanging over that one.
But I didn't say it would be easy, and I didn't say it would be quick. Nothing really worth doing is. Anyone who tells you that there are easy answers to the big questions our country faces is either lying to you or lying to themselves. We are taking a new approach, credible plans rooted in conservative values. Hard though the task is, we have plenty of reasons to be cheerful. Because as one of my great predecessors, Margaret Thatcher, put it, the facts of life are conservative. The facts of life are conservative, conference. The fact that countries, like families, have to live within their means. The fact that individuals know better than government.
Okay, here we go. As of October 3rd, according to Political's poll of polls aggregator, 16 for them, under 20%. Fucking love it. 21 for Labour, 31 for Reform. Fucking hell. 13 for the Lib Dems, and 10 for the Greens. That can be shifted.
How best to spend their own money. The fact that freedom depends on order and only works under the rule of law. There is a gap for the responsible, optimistic, competent conservative approach, an approach rooted in values. Values like personal responsibility. As my dad often said to me, only 20% of what happens to you is down to others. 80% is down to your actions and your choices. Like citizenship, a commitment to a country and the people in it. Family, in different shapes and sizes, the bedrock of social stability and the foundation of our society. Freedom, freedom to think, to speak, and to live as each of us chooses. These are the values of British people. They are crying out for a politics rooted in those values, which puts their needs first.
You'd want to get rid of those, though. Tory governments have tried it in the past. Just things like you're going to be trying to bring back some of the most egregious legislation that your previous governments have tried. Yeah, thanks, Brodie. All right. Good idea, covering your bases. Well done, Brodie.
Conference, they are crying out for a stronger economy, where hard work is rewarded and everyone has a chance to get on. For stronger borders, where we control who comes here and can remove those with no right to stay. This is our political DNA as Conservatives. Our job is to prove to the country that we are the only party that can deliver it. Conference, post-war, Conservatives spread prosperity and built millions of new homes, the bedrock of the property-owning democracy. In the 1980s, Mrs. Thatcher broke the cycle of high inflation, low growth, and trade union strife, giving Britain back her national pride and economic strength. Labour accuse us of achieving nothing in the 14 years since 2010. I'll tell you what we did. Remember what we inherited from them back then. They spent all the money, sold the gold, piled up debt. Like every Labour government in history, they left unemployment higher than they found it. We were elected to fix it, and Conservatives got to work. We slashed the deficit every year so that when the pandemic hit, we had the means to weather the storm. We reformed our schools to put rigor back into the curriculum. And today, a whole generation of young people will enter the world with better maths and literary skills than any generation before them. We reformed welfare. We got people into work. 4 million new jobs were created, over 1 million new businesses. We gave the British people a choice on our membership of the EU, and we implemented that decision.
Apparently, he did indeed. And the two subsequent governments of both flavours, the majority of our house building was from like post-war, so like 47, 48 onwards into the 60s.
And what followed? The fastest vaccine rollout in the West. Billions of pounds worth of trade deals. No other party would have done these things, but they were right for our country, and we can all be proud of them. And Conference, we mustn't forget that in each election, from 2010 to 2019, our vote share went up. That's unprecedented in modern history. And the British people don't get it wrong.
Then it crashed. Your vote share went fucking down the toilet, missus. Delightful. Us in Northern Ireland vote to remain.
But if we take pride in what we got right, we also have to face up to what we got wrong. People won't listen to us again until we show them we have learned from our mistakes and changed. We've got to do this, and we have to do it properly. What have we learned? That you can't have a budget that has £150 billion of spending giveaways and billions more in tax cuts without saying where the money is coming from. We have to show that we have learned from the policy mistake of letting bureaucrats decide the immigration system. We failed to bring numbers down and stop the boats. Let's be honest, that happened on our watch. Yes, we tried, but put simply, we didn't achieve enough. After years of responsible and effective government, our mistakes on the economy and on immigration lost us the trust and confidence of the public. So we start this week saying
14 years of defunding, 14 years of fucking austerity is what lost you the vote. And Partygate and Pincher and more privatisation in the NHS. It just the scrapping of HS2 burnt a lot of bridges as well for you. Didn't reach up here, so didn't really didn't really come into our voting intentions really up here. But a lot of what was classed as Tory shire, all your other constituencies going the way up where you done compulsory purchases, burnt a lot of bridges with those. That's why a lot of them went to Labour.
we have learnt, and we will never repeat the financial irresponsibility of spending commitments without saying where the money is coming from.
Hey, austerity 2.0. And by the time this is 2.0,
Never again, conference. This week, we will set out how we have changed, how we will be different, and most importantly, how we will make a difference. Economic responsibility is the hallmark of the Conservative approach, and today it is right back at the heart of everything we stand for. We may be in Manchester, but the theme of economic responsibility will run through this conference like the words in a stick of Blackpool rock. There are two parts of our message at this conference: stronger economy, stronger borders. It is stronger borders that I want to talk to you about today. I was elected leader because I promised to renew this party and our policies, so we can win the next election and then rewire the state to make it work for people again. We are not interested in superficial fixes. Instead, we are taking a systemic approach, asking the difficult questions that others avoid. We have the courage to follow through with credible plans to answer them. It's the rigorous, practical, Conservative way. And on so many of those questions, the answers come back to the same thing. Why is it that every time we try to build anything in this country, we have to spend millions of pounds on paperwork and still get bogged down in litigation? Why are protesters allowed to block roads and disrupt lives time and time again? Why are our veterans relentlessly chased through the courts by activist lawyers? Why couldn't we deport those foreign nationals who raped girls in communities across the UK? Why do we still allow them to remain in the very same towns where their victims live? Why? It is fundamental. Why can't we control our borders and remove those who need to go? All these questions boil down to who should make the laws that govern the United Kingdom.
yeah.
Conservatives believe it should be our sovereign parliament, accountable to the British people. The reality today is that this is simply not the case. I saw it again and again in government. So often we had the right instincts and the right policies, but our hands were tied by a system that frustrated democratic control. This use of litigation as a political weapon is what I call lawfare. Well-meaning treaties and
Yeah, you don't like it when you come up against the fucking legal system, do you? When you try to do your legislation, they're there to check you.
statutes like the European Convention on Human Rights and the European Convention on Action Against Trafficking, drafted with the best of intentions in generations gone by, and more recent additions, like the Modern Slavery Act, are now being used in ways never intended by their original authors. What should be shields to protect the vulnerable have instead become swords to attack democratic decisions and frustrate common sense. Conference, this isn't just damaging our security, it's also damaging our prosperity. It is that whole system which we need to reform, and the place to start is the European Convention on Human Rights. None of us had a problem with the rights in the original charter. It was drafted in 1950 by British lawyers, conservative lawyers, and it drew on British tradition.
Now there's a mad one. What's she been up to recently, Sock, now? Yeah, don't worry, I don't think she's going to be Prime Minister. I doubt she's going to last much longer as fucking Tory leader, let alone Prime Minister. Aye, Kenny.
The problems stem from how it has been enforced and how its meaning has been twisted and changed. Today, it is used as a block on deportations, a weapon against veterans, and a barrier to sentencing and public order. Labour pretend it can be fixed. But when a group of 9 European countries, led by Italy, recently pushed for reforms at the court, the Labour government did not support them. They wouldn't even try. Our human rights lawyer Prime Minister and his good friend the Attorney General, an Attorney General who likened those of us questioning ECHR membership to Nazis, will never fix this problem. Instead, Conference, they have gone in the opposite direction, paying to surrender British territory in the Chagos Islands and plotting to force everyone in this country to carry Starmer's digital ID. Conference, we will fight them every step of the way. Reform just shout that we should leave the ECHR without any plan to do so or understanding any of the consequences. They are practicing that old failed politics I talked about, that politics of announcements without a plan. That is the way to chaos and failure. It is only the Conservatives who are taking the honest, responsible approach, prepared with a plan to deliver. To make sure we can strike at the root of the problem, we need to understand the full extent of the problem. That's why I had identified 5 essential policies that the government must be able to implement if we are to secure our border and restore order to our society. 5 tests that a country has to pass to be truly sovereign. First, can we deport foreign criminals and those who are here illegally? Second, can we stop our veterans being harassed through the courts? Third, can we put British citizens first for social housing and public services? Fourth, can we make sure protests do not intimidate people or stop them living their lives? And finally, can we stop endless red tape and legal challenges just choking off economic growth? Any self-respecting sovereign nation should be able to answer all 5 of those questions with a clear yes.
It was,
Conference, anything that is stopping us from doing so is a barrier we have to remove. So I asked the Shadow Attorney General, the distinguished King's Counsel, Lord Wolfson, to lead an in-depth analysis. The question I posed was whether these 5 tests can be lawfully met as a signatory to the European Convention on Human Rights, bound by the court in Strasbourg. And I want to thank Lord Wolfson for his immense and detailed work. So forensic, so thorough. Thank you.
You want now?
In nearly 200 pages of legal advice, he has provided his answer. This is what he said. When it comes to control of our sovereign borders, preventing our military veterans from being pursued indefinitely, ensuring prison sentences are applied rigorously for serious crimes, stopping disruptive protests,
They
or
already are.
placing blanket restrictions on foreign nationals in terms of social housing and benefits, the only way
They have
such
no
positions are
recourse.
feasible would be to leave the ECHR. And so to me and the Shadow Cabinet, the resulting policy decision is also clear. We must leave the ECHR and repeal the Human Rights Act.
Fuck off. There we go. Coming after our human rights. Delightful. Over my dead body. Get wrecked, Kemi. You're not coming for our human rights. Yes,
Conference,
yes.
I want you to know that the next Conservative manifesto will contain our commitment to leave. Leaving the
Keep your
convention
eyes off
is a
now.
necessary step, but it is not enough on its own to achieve our goals. If there are other treaties and other laws we need to revise or revisit, then we will do so. And we will do so in the same calm and responsible way, working out the detail before we rush to announce. The rights we enjoy did not come from the ECHR. They were there for hundreds of years in our common law. Parliament has legislated over centuries to reflect and protect our freedoms. Human rights in the United Kingdom did not start in 1998 with the Human Rights Act, and they will not end with it. As we work through our detailed plan, we are clear that leaving the ECHR and repealing the Human Rights Act will not mean that we lose any of the rights we cherish. But this is the only way to end spurious legal claims from immigrants with dubious stories and excuses. This is the only way to allow a British government, the next Conservative government, to deliver a British borders plan in full. Conference, the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, has done a brilliant job pulling together this borders plan. The Conservatives are a strong team, and he will be saying more about this shortly, including our plans to remove 150,000 illegal migrants a year. Lord Wolfson has also advised that leaving the ECHR is fully compatible with the Belfast Agreement, the Good Friday Agreement, but I know that there will be particular challenges in Northern Ireland. But difficulties are not a reason to avoid action. They are a reason to work harder to get it right. So, thank you.
Yeah.
So, to ensure that this is an orderly and respectful process across the whole United Kingdom, I am asking Shadow Northern Ireland Secretary Alex Burghardt to lead a review into union-wide implementation. So at the next election, we will present the people of the United Kingdom with a clear, thorough and robust plan. Not the vague mush that we see day in, day out from Labour, nor the vacuous posturing that we see day in, day out from Reform. Conference. You would have seen last week both Labour and Reform shouting at one another, trading insults instead of solutions. One flings around the word racist and will not be realistic about what is going wrong. The other whips up outrage, offering simplistic answers that will fall apart on first contact with reality. That is not serious politics.
What? Yeah. They keep on forgetting that, don't they? Our tax base is shrinking. Do they know that? Doubtful.
Politics. Conference, neither of those parties offers the leadership that Britain deserves. The truth is that Labour and Reform are two sides of the same coin. Both deal in grievance. Both divide our country into tribes and labels. Both practice identity politics which will destroy our country. And I am saying no, no to division and no to identity politics. Conference, what Britain needs is national unity. I am black. I am a woman. I am a conservative. And I know that identity politics is a trap. It reduces people to categories and then pits them against each other. But I am more than black, female, and even conservative. I am British.
He does, John. He does. Okay, end me.
Conference, I am British, as we all are. My children are British, and I will not allow anyone on the left to tell them that they belong in a different category, or anyone on the right to tell them that they do not belong in their own country.
Yeah.
Yes, Britain is a multiracial country. That is part of our modern story. But it must never become a multicultural country where shared values dissolve, loyalty fragments, and we foment the homegrown terrorism that we saw on the streets of Manchester this week. Nations cannot survive on diversity alone. We need a strong common culture rooted in our history, our language, our institutions, and our belief in liberty under the law. That is what holds us together, and that is why borders matter, why numbers matter, but most of all, why culture matters. Who comes here, why they come, and how they contribute. That is how we protect the inheritance that generations before us fought for and died for. Britain needs deep change. But I reject the politics that everything must go, that everything must be torn down, that everything is broken. But if we leave it to Labour or Reform, Britain will be divided. Only the Conservatives can bring this country back together. This is a battle we must win. By combining secure borders with a shared culture, strong values, and the confidence of a great nation, we can win the debate and win the next election. Conference, this is a party under new leadership and with a renewed purpose. We have listened, we have learned, and we have changed. Only Conservatives will tell you the truth. Only Conservatives will take the difficult decisions, do the hard work. Only Conservatives have the courage, the honesty, and the plan to strengthen our borders, restore our sovereignty, and rebuild our prosperity.
Correct talk now. Correct. She doesn't. No. Delightful, isn't it?
So I say to you all, as we start our conference, yes, we have a mountain to climb, but we have a song in our hearts, and we are up for the fight. Thank you. Thank you.
Some demo. Oh, it is blatant, isn't it? There we go. That one's further back.
Right, so today we mark 2 years since Israel began its genocide of Gaza. Gaza, to all intents and purposes, is basically gone now, isn't it? Its people scramble to survive amongst ruin with nowhere to go. Trapped in the largest open-air prison on earth, and the world still has the gall to act surprised. The death toll now reads like a population census. More buildings have been decimated than still stand, from hospitals to homes, and the governments who funded it still call themselves civilised. Britain and Italy have chosen to mark the anniversary not with reflection but with bans and arrests, the surest sign that they know exactly what they've enabled. Giorgia Meloni mocks protesters. Keir Starmer calls them un-British when he has invited Israeli officials to meet with him and shake his hand, from ministers to the President of Israel himself, whilst leaving British flotilla participants to Israel's mercy, saying they're a matter for Israel. The British citizens who tried to deliver food to starving children are in handcuffs or cells. If there's anything un-British about this moment, it isn't the people marching for Gaza or sailing to it. It's the leaders criminalising morality to try and keep their own consciences clean. So on this Gaza anniversary, let's tell them exactly what we think of them. Right, so 2 years have passed since the 7th of October 2023, and Gaza is, well, what can you say? The enclave has been bombed into near oblivion. Figures verified by the World Health Organization just last month record at least 63,746 Palestinians killed and 161,245 injured. Other reports state that the real toll is closer to 76,000 dead, with thousands of families wiped out completely. More than 200,000 tons of munitions have been dropped, 15 Hiroshimas worth of explosives in an area smaller than Greater London. The United Nations and the World Bank describe the result as uninhabitable. 78% of Gaza's buildings are damaged or destroyed. 9 in 10 Gazans, 1.9 million people, have been displaced, many multiple times. UNICEF counts over 50,000 children killed or maimed. The cost of reconstruction is estimated at $53 billion. Behind every statistic lies the same political fact, though. The governments that could have stopped this have chosen not to. This is not tragic crossfire, it's the deliberate demolition of a society while its supposed protectors debate wording at the UN. When loss becomes this vast, numbers risk becoming abstract and dehumanised, so we mustn't let that happen. Yet the arithmetic still matters because it exposes political will. WHO's 63,000 confirmed dead are already more than all Israel's previous wars combined. The Lancet projects that indirect deaths from hunger, disease, lack of medical care, not to mention all of those missing presumed dead, can push the true death toll above 10% of the entire population. That estimate is grounded in modelling by the likes of Johns Hopkins University. Their status quo scenario predicted 66,000 additional preventable deaths even without escalation. Governments received those forecasts and continued approving weapons exports. Every body in whose ledgers corresponds to a signature on an export licence or a trade waiver issued in London or Washington or Brussels or wherever else. The Western moral vocabulary of self-defence and proportionality and restraint needed on both sides has become a euphemism for deliberate paralysis. Knowing became complicity. But when states refused to act, civilians did, didn't they? The Sumud Flotilla was a humanitarian convoy of 50 boats carrying food, medicine and baby formula to Gaza. Nearly 500 volunteers from 47 countries joined, aid workers, clergy, journalists, doctors, operating legally in international waters. Israel's navy intercepted them anyway. Lesser navy, more a pirate flotilla, if you like. Commandos boarded at gunpoint and seized everyone on board. The intent was not confusion but deterrence, to make humanitarianism itself a punishable act. Among the detainees were, of course, Greta Thunberg, but there were plenty of others too, notably people in the media that we're speaking about right now, such as Yvonne Ridley or Surya McEwen and Lorenzo D'Agostino, have all featured in recent coverage. Testimonies describe hooding, beatings and sleep deprivation. The Swedish Foreign Ministry confirmed Thunberg's harsh treatment. McEwen's colleagues called her capture kidnapping, which it was, by a pirate navy. It took place in international waters, and D'Agostino described forced confessions. On the treatment of Greta Thunberg, the Turkish journalist Ersin Çelik said they did exactly what the Nazis did. They publicly humiliated her and targeted her specifically because she's a well-known figure. More than 100 volunteers remain unaccounted for, including the Scottish Yvonne Ridley. Reports of some still incarcerated beginning hunger strikes have now come out as well. They can starve our bodies, one has apparently said, but they cannot starve our purpose. Photographs of ordinary citizens in Israeli handcuffs tell the story better than any statement ever could. They show how far Israel's impunity now extends, and how silent its allies have become. The UN has acknowledged multiple complaints about torture and disappearance, but confined itself to procedural concern, yet more hand-wringing. The EU asked for clarity. None of the governments whose citizens were seized, from Britain to Sweden, Italy, Australia, all the rest, demanded accountability. London's response was the most revealing, though. Despite British citizens kidnapped in international waters in violation of international maritime law, when asked about the abductions, Downing Street said it was a matter for Israel. That phrase captures the collapse of British sovereignty itself. It doesn't actually exist. A British government surrendering jurisdiction over its own nationals to a state accused of torturing them. The immunity granted to Israel abroad is now being reproduced at home, in the policing of protesters we've seen again this past weekend and the criminalisation of conscience. What began as diplomatic cover is metastasised into domestic repression. In Italy, the confrontation is on the surface. Following the flotilla attack, millions joined strikes and demonstrations. Dock workers have refused to handle any further Israeli shipments. Ahead of those recent protests, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni mocked them, saying a long weekend and revolution don't go together. 4 days later, pro-Palestine rallies are getting banned, citing security risks. She's not laughing now. Repression is always the reflex of a government that senses legitimacy slipping. Italy's not an exception, it's a symptom. Across Europe, states are restricting protests precisely because public empathy has become unmanageable for them. If Meloni fears disorder, though, Keir Starmer fears honesty. Perhaps no surprise given how serially dishonest he is over all manner of things, but on this issue, more than usual. Yesterday, he branded planned Gaza anniversary marches as un-British. He's turned our moral opposition to what Israel has been doing for 2 years now into an accusation of cultural treason. Protest is not un-British. It's pretty much the most British thing you can do. It's the foundation of every right we as Britons possess, from suffrage to unionism to anti-war movements. Calling dissent un-British is historical amnesia weaponised by a man who frankly is as amoral as you can get. But he's gone even further than that, more depraved than that. British flotilla volunteer Sarah Wilkinson was arrested at Heathrow under counter-terrorism powers after her release from Israeli detention, having taken part in that flotilla. The kidnapped victim now treated as a criminal. Yvonne Ridley remains imprisoned in Israel, but Starmer has already said that's a matter for Israel, so what help can she expect? Or would consular assistance for her be un-British now too? Meanwhile, Israeli officials directly involved in the bombardment, the likes of foreign ministers like Gideon Saar or Air Force Commander Tomer Bar or President of Israel himself, it's Isaac Herzog, have all been received in London getting the red carpet treatment. A British citizen can be tortured abroad for delivering aid, yet the architects of that torture are welcomed with handshakes on the steps of Downing Street. If Starmer wants to talk about what's un-British, then he doesn't get more un-British than this photograph right here. Each generation faces a moral test, and we should remember that as we mark this tragic anniversary. This is ours, and our leadership has failed as far as it is possible to. When a Labour Prime Minister calls humanitarian protest un-British, he's not defending national values, he's tearing them apart. The suffragettes, the miners' strikes, the anti-apartheid campaigners were all branded threats to order. Their successors marched for Gaza. The rhetoric has not changed, only the target has. Starmer's words expose a deeper fear, though, that empathy might still exist in a population his party cannot control no matter how increasingly authoritarian they become. To admit Britain's role in the genocide would mean confronting the arms exports, the intelligence sharing, the veto diplomacy, his own role in all of it too. Easier to redefine patriotism as obedience and shove another flag up his arse. The collapse is legal as well as moral, made worse by Starmer's legal background, because we know he knows all of this. The International Court of Justice has ruled Israel's actions plausibly genocidal. The International Criminal Court has opened files. The UN has ruled Israel's actions to be genocide. Yet enforcement stalls because the governments funding Israel control the institutions judging it. The post-war legal order functions now to punish adversaries and protect allies. The United States and United Kingdom invoke international law against others while vetoing it for themselves. And the consequence is visible because you only need to look at the state of the Gaza Strip. Starvation as strategy, collective punishment as policy, immunity as entitlement. Every press statement about Gaza is written to avoid recognition, despite having symbolically recognised it, meaning nothing as it does in practice without being backed up with action. Tragic, complex, unfortunate. The vocabulary drains the accountability from the atrocity. Israel has the right to defend itself is repeated as mantra, even when the victims are aid convoys and hospitals and people trying to deliver baby formula. Mainstream outlets then dutifully reproduce this framing, don't they? Not holding power to account, but enabling the awfulness. Deaths appear in the passive voice. People died, not Israel killed them. Israeli claims are quoted verbatim. Palestinian evidence is always caveated. It's not journalism, but narrative management designed to maintain the illusion that Western policy is unquestioningly correct, rather than guilty as sin and utterly complicit. Maloney and Starmer supposedly differ ideologically, but in practice not that much, since they share the same reflex. Suppress empathy before it becomes resistance. Maloney bans marches, Starmer arrests protesters. Both claim to protect order while dismantling the moral foundations of democracy. Across Europe, anti-protest legislation is multiplying. Britain's Public Order Act allows police to prohibit demonstrations deemed disruptive, and they've proven keener to arrest grannies and disabled people holding cardboard placards than going after actual criminals. France criminalises public solidarity with Palestine. Germany equates to kafir with extremism. The purpose is not stability, but deterrence. Discipline by exhaustion by governments who have thrown their lot in with Israel versus publics who overwhelmingly support Palestine. Governments call this safeguarding the public. In truth, they're safeguarding themselves from the public. But it's unsustainable, and it can't work, and it can't last. The more you attempt to crack down on dissent, the more people end up dissenting. Protests are swelling, alliances are straining, and each new atrocity strips another layer from the myth of having a humanitarian leadership. Every suppressed demonstration, every arrested volunteer, every hunger strike exposes a widening gap between rulers and ruled. The statistics themselves form the indictment. 76,000 dead, 63,000 verified, 50,000 children, 78% of infrastructure destroyed, $53 billion in damages. Each number is a gravestone and a receipt. The hypocrisy is measurable as well. Arms exports to Israel continue to rise. American weapons constitute most of the munitions dropped on Gaza, but UK shipments have risen as well. The European Union's dual-use exports persist despite public outrage.
Yep.
Indifference is a learned behaviour. Decades of media framing have normalised Palestinian suffering as background noise. Fear of accusations of anti-Semitism chills debate. Politicians exploit that fear to equate criticism of Israel with prejudice itself. And the result is moral paralysis dressed up as complexity. Viewers who would never justify atrocities elsewhere call Gaza a complicated situation, but it's not complicated. The questions are very simple. Is starvation acceptable policy? Is bombing hospitals legal? Is torturing volunteers defensible? The answer to each is quite obviously no, isn't it? So claims of complexity only serve those who benefit from confusing and muddying the waters, Israel and those serving their interests. Moral leadership has migrated. It no longer resides in Western capitals, but in the hands of those acting where governments will not. It lives in the likes of Yemen's blockade of Israeli shipping, in Italy striking dock workers, in the British crowds defying protest bans, and in the Ashdod hunger strikers refusing to eat while Gaza starves. The enforcement of international law now comes from the bottom up, not the top down. Diplomats might draft communiques, citizens are the ones enforcing ethics. So Britain is at a crossroads again, I guess. The question is whether it will defend conscience or criminalise it. Starmer's un-British remark should be a wake-up call to every single one of us. Either protest remains a legitimate expression of principle, as it has always been, or the country abandons the democratic tradition that wants to find it, and we're just going to slide further into the mire and miasma. The test is embodied in individual cases, from Yvonne Ridley, who is still detained in Israel, being subjected to goodness knows what, Sarah Wilkinson, arrested as soon as she landed back in Britain, thousands marching under surveillance. Their treatment reveals what Britain's become, a state more willing to appease a foreign power than protect its own citizens. That's not patriotism. That's not sovereignty. That's selling out. If this continues, the word ally will mean client, and British values will mean silence whilst becoming increasingly complicit. The flotilla volunteers, the protesters on the streets, are not fringe radicals. They're the moral remainder of a political system that's been utterly hollowed out by hypocrisy. They've done what governments refuse to do, act according to law and to conscience. Their defiance has consequences. It demonstrates that the moral contract between citizens and state still exists, even if the state has broken it. History will remember them as the people who refused to let genocide be normalised. In them lies the reversal Starmer fears the most. Those he calls un-British are the only Britons still behaving like citizens living in a democracy. And 2 years on, Gaza lies in ruins, and with it the moral architecture of the West. The governments that claim to defend civilization have sanctioned its destruction. They have turned international law into privilege and conscience into crime. And the only people who have acted honourably are the only ones being punished for it, the volunteers and the journalists and the hunger strikers and the marchers. They are Britain now. They are the best of British. They are Europe's conscience. They are what remains of the idea that humanity still matters. The facade is falling, though. Protests are growing louder, alliances are fraying, and the language of denial no longer conceals the crime it was built to hide. In the end, it was not the protesters who betrayed Britain, it was the leaders who feared them. Because nothing is more un-British or more unhuman than silence in the face of genocide. So on this 2-year anniversary, let's remember who has allowed this situation to reach 2 years and condemn them for it. Of course, it isn't just Starmer's devotion to Israel above the interests of British citizens that damns him, but his weaponisation of racism alongside it, as his response to the Manchester synagogue attack has made abundantly clear, whilst his ignoring of a similar attack on a mosque in Peacehaven shows that hierarchy of racism in his Labour Party is still very much alive and kicking despite the Ford report. Check out the details of that story in this video recommendation here as your suggested next watch. Please do also hit like, share and subscribe if you haven't done so already, so as to ensure you don't miss out on all new daily content, as well as spreading the word and helping to support the channel at the very same time, which is very much appreciated. Holding power to account for ordinary working class people. And I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.
Thanks, Demo. Brilliant as always.
Right, so it takes a special kind of government to hold an illegal vote during recess and then congratulate itself for its commitment to law and order. But that's where Israel is now. a country where the far right breaks the law just to prove it still owns it. In an incident that's gone grossly underreported, while the Knesset was closed during recess, 4 MKs used that time to quietly advance a bill to advance the death penalty, execute Palestinians, and then call it democracy. The only person who objected to it was thrown out of the room for mentioning Israel's own hostages and what this might mean for them. So much for that being the very reason for committing genocide in Gaza in the first place, eh? The self-proclaimed only democracy in the Middle East just discovered that laws are easier to break when you're the one who makes them. And the rest of the world, apparently too polite to notice, is still pretending nothing has happened. Right, so this incident took place about a week ago now, 28th of September, whilst the Israeli Knesset was still officially in recess. But this is still very much an ongoing matter, and still very few in the media are actually talking about it, and I find it incredible that they're not, quite frankly. 5 members of Israel's National Security Committee, one of the most far-right committees in Israel's history, over half of the representatives on it either belong to Bezalel Smotrich's Religious Zionism Party or Itamar Ben-Gvir's Jewish Power, gathered in a side room and did something they were not permitted to do. They held a vote. 4 of them raised their hands in favour of a bill to impose the death penalty on Palestinians convicted of killing Israelis. 1 voted against. He shouted, "Shame on you, there are hostages," and was, as a consequence, physically removed from the room. That brief exchange tells the story of a state that has stopped treating legality as a boundary and started using it to do whatever the hell it likes. The Knesset's own legal advisor had already issued a written warning that any vote during recess would be null and void, but it made no difference. The far right that dominates the committee, that has got Benjamin Netanyahu by the comb over, held the vote anyway, recorded the result, and issued a press release celebrating it as progress. The 4 votes in favour came from Zvi Sukkot of Religious Zionism, Limor Sonhar Melech, and Yitzhak Kreuzer of Otzma Yehudit, and Boaz Bismuth of Likud. The absent member, Zvika Fogel, is a retired general and a close ally of Itamar Ben-Gvir, and he stayed away to allow some veneer, some pretense of procedural distance. Gilad Kariv of the Democrats, the only member of the committee not part of Netanyahu's coalition, was the one who got thrown out. The optics of democracy being thrown out of the room fitting all too well. The vote's illegality was clear, though. The House committee had not authorised legislative work during recess. Required consultations with the Justice Ministry and security agencies had not taken place. But the rule book was never the point. This was a deliberate act of defiance, a demonstration that the far right holds the levers of power and no longer feels obliged to pretend otherwise, to pretend restraint. The death penalty bill did not have to pass that day to succeed. Its purpose was to test the system's limits.
I do apologise, comrades. I'm going to need to go to my bed. I'm sitting here absolutely shivering and I'm in fucking agony. Let's see who we can raid. I do apologise, YouTube. Still haven't figured it out yet. The bird with the doodles. Cult of Eyes. Reiki. Marxism. Thank you, Brody. I will. Oh, hang on. You'll see me vanish for a minute. No more. What's Stephanie up to?
The increasing attacks upon lesbians and gay men are only an introduction to the increasing attacks upon all black people. For wherever oppression manifests itself in this country,
Oscar!
Black people
How long's Oscar been going?
are potential victims. The increasing attacks upon lesbians.
Oh, he's only got one person.
And we're going to spend this episode
Shanna.
talking about his life and times because again, he's a fascinating person.
Just want to say hi
And
to
I think there's a
Oscar.
lot, like on his own, we probably could do a Bastards episode, but the thing he's best known for is being wrongly accused of being the anthrax male guy, and it just felt like I don't know. It seems weird to do an episode about how much this guy sucks, but also he's fine here. Like this wasn't his fault. He was done dirty. So we're just talking about like how in both of these terrorist attacks, the same fucked up thing happened thanks to the FBI and the media being the kinds of organs that they are.
Is Steve our protagonist this time?
Steve is, and this is going to be more of a traditional Bastards episode, this one, and then in part 3, whenever we record that, we'll get to the actual anthrax attack and what happened to him, but we have to talk about Steve Hatfield, because who he is and the kind of life he leads are what makes him into the suspect for this terrorist attack, right? And like is why people in the FBI and the media become so convinced that it was him. And he's a perfect candidate for Bastards. Like his backstory is insane. He's told a bunch of different versions of his life, many of which can't be true. Independent reporting has repeatedly shown that like different things he said about his resume and his CV could not have happened that way. So there's a lot of really fun untangling and record correcting to do. So anyway, let's talk about Steve J. Hatfield. He was born on October 24th, 1953 in St. Louis, Missouri, like me. He was raised in Mattoon, Illinois. He was the oldest of 2 kids and the only boy in his family. His mother was a homemaker and part-time interior decorator, and his father was an electrical engineer and salesman. Now, the details I've come across don't make it look like his childhood was particularly noteworthy. There's no major